Compliance Kitchen podcast. Today we will take a look at more sanctions on Burma or Myanmar. So you may have listened to my prior episode on Burma and Myanmar and the US sanctions, and then we had EU sanctions on the country, and this is all in connection with the recent military coup and the resulting human rights abuses that are going on in the country. So now to add to that, we have UK sanctions on Myanmar. This was on April 29 when the UK issued a notice that they are sanctioning Myanmar, again in connection with that military coup. And the sanctions also revoke and replace the Burma sanctions regulations of 2019. So again, this is the UK sanctions we're talking about today. There's separate US and EU sanctions on Burma or Myanmar as well. And we've covered those previously on both the podcast and on Compliance Kitchen website. So these UK regulations impose financial, trade, and immigration sanctions and restrictions for the purpose of promoting peace, stability, and security in Myanmar, and to discourage actions, policies, or activities which repress the local population there. The regulations impose a number of prohibitions and requirements. As for the grounds for designations under these new regulations, the UK government explains that the Secretary of State may designate a person or an entity if there's reasonable grounds to suspect that they are an quote-unquote involved person. So there's a definition of what involved person means. And also the Secretary of State of the UK would consider that the designation of that person or entity is appropriate and drives the purpose of these new sanctions. So there's obviously much more to this and also definitions. I would suggest that you hop on to compliancekitchen.com and pull up that post if you are dealing with Burma or Myanmar in your day-to-day and need to follow the development of these sanctions. I have a link to the regulations, and also, which is always helpful, the UK government issued a guidance to assist us with these new regulations. The guidance offers assistance with the prohibitions and the requirements imposed by the regulations, and also offers best practices for complying with these new requirements, enforcement, and also the applicability of the law. So again, if this is something that you are following, I do have links to the UK official documents on compliancekitchen.com under the UK sanctions on Myanmar post. Alright, so now moving on to, again, we are still staying in Burma, Myanmar for a few minutes. The EU, as I mentioned earlier, we already have EU sanctions on Burma in place, and on April 29, the European Council announced that they are extending the EU sanctions on Burma for another year, so they will be good until April 30th, 2022. This extension includes existing restrictive measures against individuals directly involved in the military coup in February, and also the subsequent human rights violations. They target government and military officials of Tatmadaw, which is not anything new. That's just a continuation of the current sanctions. And companies that are owned by Tatmadaw and by extension help to finance this group. So for more on this April 29 press release, again, I'll just refer you to compliancekitchen.com, and also there's additional posts on these sanctions if this is something you're following.